type of like kind of like Isaac. Those who are born of the Spirit. He hears and learns from the Father. Samuel is like a little boy in the temple, and he hears the voice of God, and he's like, "Here I am." Remember, he goes to Samuel, and Samuel's like, "Go back and say, 'Here I am, your servant's listening.'" And then he learns to like hear from God and learn from God. So he's like, Jesus said, like, everyone who hears and learns from the Father comes to me. He's born from the heavenly Jerusalem. Anyways, Hannah and Penina is another one that Paul doesn't mention, but it's the same thing.
So we have Hannah and Penina, we have Sarah and Hagar, or Sinai and Jerusalem, and then the earthly, what does he said, earthly Jerusalem and the heavenly Jerusalem?
Right, which just shows you that like in Revelation you have Babylon in the wilderness, right? And then you have the bride on the mountain coming down from God. So the bride is the heavenly Jerusalem.
The
It
one
even
that
says this is the bride, the new Jerusalem, right?
is this the one that was
Coming
taken out to 3.5 in the years, where God's gonna away from the face of the serpent?
Yeah, that's also the bride.
Oh,
She gets separated. Yeah, you see her in Revelation 12 standing on the moon, clothed with the sun.
so
She gives
that's
birth to Jesus. Jesus gets caught up to God's throne. The devil gets thrown out of heaven. She gets carried to the wilderness. The devil goes away to make war with the rest of her seed, those who have the testimony of Jesus and keep the commandments of God. The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. These are the people that are born again. They're hearing and learning. They're the children of the heavenly Jerusalem, children of promise, hearing and learning from the Father, like Samuel. I'm probably covering too much ground for you, maybe.
no, this is good. I'm recording it. Don't worry. So just keep going. I started
Oh,
recording not too long ago, like a minute or two ago, but so we got the different examples of the brides. The allegory with Sarah and Hagar, and the one in Revelation as well. So the church is mentioned in Revelation and after chapter 3.
she's apostate. It's apostate. It's earthly religion, right? That's what we see in Paul's allegory in Galatians 4. He
Hmm.
says the earthly Jerusalem and the heavenly Jerusalem. Well, what he means there is at that time when Paul said that, the earthly Jerusalem was the seat of earthly religion,
Hmm.
right? The temple was there. It was like the center of earthly worship of Yahweh. But it was the bondwoman. Now it's in Rome.
Hmm. Which
That's the
is
center of in the world, basically.
why a lot of people say that, uh, with like, oh yeah, clothed in purple and all that. They're saying it's the Catholic Church, but it's also her daughters, the other false religions, and all the other apostates.
Earthly religious service. Yeah, exactly. Trying to be justified by your own efforts in various ways.
But God then will hide us. He will take care of us in the will.
The children of the heavenly Jerusalem all hear and learn from God. All of them. No exceptions.
Is it possible if you can quickly cover the Matthew 24, 1 Thessalonians 4, 2 Corinthians 15:52, and Revelation 1:7, if you can again?
Okay, you just quoted all the verses or said their references, but basically in Matthew it says that after the tribulation of those days, then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and he shall send all of his angels with the sound of a trumpet to gather his elect from the four winds. So you got a trumpet, and then he says, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. So every eye is seeing him. They're all mourning. They're all really upset. There's a trumpet. He's gathering his elect. It's after the tribulation. Revelation 1:7 says, "Behold, he comes with the clouds, and every eye shall see him, and all the tribes of the earth shall mourn because of him. Even so, amen." It's the same thing that it's talking about, right? Every eye will see
Hmm.
him, and he's come with the clouds and stuff. Then Paul is talking in First Thessalonians, Second Corinthians. He says between those two places, basically, at the last trumpet, and the dead are raised first, and we shall in no wise precede those who have fallen asleep, those who are dead. So
That's the same exact verse that people mention, the twinkling of the eye passage, right?
exactly, because he says that. That's right, in one of those places. But um the the point is, you have basically, I think it's four criteria. Every eye will see him at the last trumpet. The dead are raised first. What's the other one? After the tribulation. That's only from the one place in Matthew. But so it's 3 plus what Jesus said himself, which is like extra weight because it's coming right out of his own mouth. But yeah, at the last trumpet, every eye will see him and the dead are raised first. So that's not a secret because every eye sees him. It's at the last trumpet, which means it's at the last trumpet. That's kind of specific. And the dead are raised first. We can't precede those who have fallen asleep. That's massive. Like, it's not some secret rapture. Jesus is coming back to purchase the earth, actually. Like, you can get into, there's a huge, it goes right through the whole entire Bible, but Jesus told this one-liner parable where he said, the kingdom of heaven is like, 13 something, 33, 34. He says, the kingdom of heaven is like a treasure which a man found and hid in a field and went away in his joy and sold all that he had and bought that field. Well, most people and most commentaries you read are going to say that you're the guy selling everything to get the treasure, which is the gospel. That's not correct. That's not even close to correct. Jesus is the guy selling everything to buy the field to get the treasure. The treasure is you. So the field is the earth, the man is Jesus, and the treasure is you, us. And we know this for 100% sure because the interpretation is in Exodus 19, 5, and 6. It says, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my commands, you will be a peculiar treasure unto me, and I will make you a nation of priests and kings, for all the earth is mine, saith the Lord. Well, when Jesus is doing this thing, beginning the purchase in Revelation with the sealed scroll, and that's a whole big concept too, but they start praising him, all the voices in heaven, for you have redeemed us and made us a kingdom of priests and kings. That's what they're saying, literally, as he's doing the purchase. And then the purchase is completed at the last trumpet. So the whole process, like the 7 seals and all that, they are detailing the terms of the purchase, the price that has to be paid. You can verify that with Jeremiah 32. Jeremiah buys his cousin's property using sealed and unsealed scrolls. Only the Redeemer in Jewish law and custom could open the sealed scroll. The unsealed scrolls were given to witnesses. Well, if you fast forward in Revelation from chapter 5, go all the way to the 6th trumpet, chapter 10, you see an angel coming down from heaven with a rainbow on his head. He's wearing a cloud. His legs are like pillars of fire. It's Jesus. He puts one foot on the land, one on the sea, and he roars like a lion. The 7 thunders shout, and he has in his hand this open book, the open copy, right? There's your open scroll, basically. And he gives it to John, says, eat it. John eats it, and then the 2 witnesses show up. Well, the 2 witnesses are part of that redemption, that purchase price. He's keeping his own law, right? So he calls witnesses, 2 of them, to testify before the whole world, ultimately, at the end, that everything is done and he has paid the price and he's about to take possession. Because it's a legal transaction that's going on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm catching that.
Yeah, and then at the 7th trumpet, it says, the 7th trumpet sounded, and the kingdoms of this world became the kingdoms of our Lord and of his Christ, and he shall reign forever and ever. He just took possession. Which means the dead are getting raised, because they're the treasure. We can go all the way back also to like the story of Abraham. Abraham buys the field of Machpelah to bury Sarah, a type of the bride. He buries her there in a cave. But he goes through this whole big purchase scenario. It's the same thing. He's buying the field with the treasure, which is his bride. Just super veiled. God repeats himself all the time. It's just, he shows us the same things from different perspectives. What's really tragic, though, is that most people don't get this about Revelation. Like, it starts off with this sealed scroll, and people have all these like weird hypotheses what they think it means. But if you don't understand like Jewish law and custom about redemption, you're going to totally get that wrong. And once you get that wrong, you're going to keep getting stuff wrong because you're not going to understand what's going on now through the rest of the story, right? So when you start opening the seals, you start thinking, oh, it's Antichrist, it's this, it's that. No, it isn't. It's the terms of the purchase. Like, it's basically, these are the things that Messiah, our Goel, our kinsman redeemer, must do. This is what he must do. He must. Okay, we got the white horse, the red horse, the black horse, and then the mottled horse. So those are the first four seals. Without detailing all about them, you can go read them for yourself. But basically, what they mean, and you can go read them for yourself. But this is what they mean. The first one, Messiah must overcome the world. Jesus said, "Fear not, I have overcome the world." Yeah, we know he did that. He didn't sin. That's why he has a bow. He never missed the mark. He lived a perfect, sinless life. Okay, so he must overcome the world. Done. The second one, he has to take peace from the earth. Jesus said, "Let no man tell you I came to bring peace, but a sword. From henceforth, a man's enemy should be those of his own house." That's Matthew 10, I think. It's somewhere around there. Then the third one is that he has to give unto every man according to their works. He has to mete out justice. You'll see it when you read it. That's what it means. It's like a day's pay, a measure of wheat for a day's pay, and a measure of barley for a day's pay. A denarius, which is the Greek amount of a day's pay of wages. But basically, he's giving people what their works deserve. So he has to give unto everyone according to their works. The fourth one is he has to have the keys of hell and death. Well, Jesus said, "Fear not, for I am he who was dead and am alive forevermore, and I have the keys of hell and death." Yeah, he did that. The fifth one, he has to have the full number of his martyrs. The sixth one, he has to shake heaven and earth. And the seventh one is he has to give the earth its Sabbath. The seventh one, ironically, happens at the seventh trumpet. When he takes possession of the earth, he gives it its 1,000-year Sabbath, the millennium. He cleanses the earth and gives it its Sabbath. So, yeah. But if you fail to get that, you don't even know what's going on in the rest of the book. So people talk about Revelation all the time, and then they think like, oh, it's Antichrist on this horse, and that is total trash. It's totally garbage. You just pulled that out of the air and made it up because you thought it sounded cool, and it's what your brain told you that this was. But if you like look at the Bible and understand what the Bible's actually saying about redemption, about Christ, which is what the entire Bible is about, this is the revelation of Jesus Christ. It's beginning with Jesus being revealed as our kinsman redeemer and him accomplishing that purpose of purchasing the earth. It's partially done right now. Partially, like he's already died on the cross, but we haven't yet seen the witnesses come and attest for 3.5 years. Mm-hmm. I don't know at what point we're at exactly right now, but we're getting close to that end. But once they're done, their testimony, the final evidence is kind of like the sign of Jonah. It's like the sign of Jesus Christ. Like he died and was raised again. It's like, no, he's done. You know, people are going to be like, whoa, we were wrong. You know,
that's
crazy. They're going to realize
that's crazy.
Yeah, it's like the two spies that were sent to Rahab also, obviously, because you know that story mirrors this in a way. It's sort of a foreshadowing. Not even sort of, it definitely 100% is a foreshadowing. You've got like your 7 trumpets and your city and your 2 spies and your prostitute, and they go into the prostitute's house and she receives them and takes them in, which is great. She passes her fruit check, but they make a promise to Rahab. They say, "Our life for yours if you utter not this our business." So they're like, hey, we'll give our lives for you if you don't tell what we're here doing. And she protects them. But that's a foreshadowing of this promise. Like, you see it. I mean, Joshua in that story, when the wall falls down at Jericho, he gives them the power. He says, go in and bring her out as you promised. So it says, like, about the witnesses in Revelation, it says, like, I will give power unto my 2 witnesses, and they will prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. That's him saying, hey, go get the bride. Bring her out. Like, even as you told her, right? So they've already been spying. But now, and nobody was aware of that, obviously. But then he's like, go get her and bring her out. And ultimately, they lay down their lives in order for her to realize, wow, this is really, I got to get out of here. And she comes out of Babylon. As soon as his wife comes out, boom, city's just burnt. The wall's already down, but like metaphorically speaking, then as soon as she comes out, that's it, over. Burnt. Just like when Lot came out of Sodom. As soon as Lot came out, burnt. As soon as Rahab came out, burnt. It's a lot. I know it's a lot, but you have it recorded. So you look up what these verses and stuff that I'm mentioning and check it for yourself. This is really what it's about.
Yeah, that's very eye-opening. It's actually amazing.
It's just how God taught me himself, and like I through like living it out. Basically, he like showed me stuff in visions, and then made me like live through all sorts of trials, and then later, as I like read the Word, everything he did in my life began to make sense because I could see these things. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
I know what he's doing, only because he revealed it, though. He's about to make that purchase again, too. That's I know that for sure. I know that you don't, but check the Bible. See if these things I told you, if they line up. Go and look so you know it for yourself. Don't just take my word for it.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be reading through the entirety of the New Testament, and maybe either tomorrow or Tuesday, I'll literally probably pop in here and just start reading Joshua. If you want to go over it like chapter by chapter, whatever, as we read, because like I want to understand that.
The book of Revelation doesn't tell you like, hey, go and read the book of Joshua, but it's obvious, right? Like you have your seven trumpets and your two spies and your city and your prostitute and all these different things going on, and all those same things are going on in the book of Joshua as well. That's for a reason, right? Like Joshua and the Israelites conquer Canaan, but they start at Jericho. Jericho is a type of Babylon. It's a type of the earthly religious institution, the earthly religious system. The judgment begins at the house of God. They bring down that city, then they conquer the rest of Canaan. But it's like Jesus. Jesus is like Joshua in that story, and they're like cleansing the earth. So they're cleansing the land of Canaan. God's throwing out the inhabitants because they're wicked. Well, that's just in the land of Israel, right? It was Canaan at that time, but we call it Israel now. But that's a picture. It's like a little foreshadow of the entire earth. So, like, Jesus is going to come with all of his saints, and they're going to dispossess all the wicked of the earth and give it its Sabbath because the wickedness is great on it. Their time's up. God even says a similar thing to Abraham. He says, like, um, this is like 400 and some years before, but he says, like, your descendants are going to go down into Egypt for 400 years, and they're going to come back and they're going to take this land because the sins of the Amorites is not yet full. They haven't yet filled up the measure of their sin. But then in Revelation, we see when it's talking about the judgment of Babylon, it says her sins have reached to heaven and God has remembered her iniquities. So it's like the full measure. The cup of her sin is like filled up now, and then she's done. That's it. It's over.
Time's up, basically.
It's the way he showed it to me in the spirit. It's like the sky turned to blood, but from the bottom to the top, the blood just like reached right up to the sky, and I knew that it was time.
We're gonna be tested. Like the church is gonna be like tested, right? Like
Oh yeah, yeah.
purified throughout
Well,
all
you
this.
think we're gonna get it? We're not. Like dispensationalism and stuff is whack. Like that's not real. It's not true. When people think that like God treats us differently than Israel, no, God never changes, and He's not partial. He's not partial to us in that sense. Like they were tested, their faith was tested in the wilderness. So will ours be tested. Your faith will be tested.
We're basically grafted into God's family, or like church or his people, right? Into the one olive tree.
Right. There's one
But
Israel of God. It's all those who are born of above, like all the children of the heavenly Jerusalem, right? The children of the free woman versus the children of the bondwoman, the earthly. So there are people like Cain that are going in like earthly religious pursuit, and they're like trying to please God by their own efforts and building towers and doing all their things, trying to like, do rosaries or whatever. You fill in the blanks. So there's Islam and all that are all different types of bondage, right? Roman Catholicism, whatever. if you think you need to do something to like please God at all, like you're totally off. It's because God makes a promise to you, believe it, you trust by faith, and you trust ultimately that He provided the lamb for you. Like you know that your works are not good, and you can't offer Him anything except, like Paul said, like we should be living sacrifices because that's our reasonable service. Jesus said, like, whoever would save his life will lose it, but whoever loses his life for my sake will keep it. Pick up your cross and follow me. That's like being a living sacrifice.
Yeah. Man, I have a lot to go over then, too. A lot to read, a lot to ask God to help me understand.
Yeah, I know. There's more than I was trying to give you, like, the brief.
No, that's good. That's good.
If you can touch too many scriptures at once, it's probably just like, especially if you don't already know them. It's, I don't know, like, I know, like, you can probably understand already that it makes some sense, but when you actually read these scriptures for yourself, it will make way more sense. And you can ask other guys that are here. Like, I was here talking cherubim, some stuff like I told him like probably 10 times for like a year. We talked about the same thing. It came up like 10 times. And then one day he's like, I read this. And then I was like, whoa, now I know what he's talking about. And I was like, dude, I thought you knew the whole time, but he didn't because he didn't read it yet. You know what I'm saying? It's like you don't learn from another person, not from me or anybody. I can point you to stuff and like be like, hey, look, this goes with this and this way and that, but like you have to go look for yourself. I don't know why it works that way, but it seems to work that way. I guess God gets all the glory, so it works for me.
I guess in a way, just God is just like you said, literally just using you to like point us, like to kind of like give us the brief, like this is what it's supposed to be. Now go look and study to show yourself approved, so you can know it for yourself.
Yeah, because you can't be confident in like Solo said this. No, don't. I don't even want you to. No, but no, don't do that. You need to know. You need to know what the Bible says, so you can then like show other people or explain it to other people and be confident. They'll be like, no, it doesn't. And you'd be like, yeah, it does. Look, and you can do this for yourself. You know what I mean?
I guess that's why, like, I guess today I was kind of shown. I was like, wow, like I don't entirely know this. I'm still relying on what everyone has told me, and I still need to like look into it for myself.
Like God's word interprets itself. If you play that back, you'll hopefully grasp. And I even like left you with like go and read those seals for yourself. I only told you what they mean, not what they are. Go look what they are, and then you can understand by what I said they meant. But yeah, I'm getting tired. But
Want me to stop recording? Is that all?
yeah, it's pretty good.